Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your home for all things related to helping you on your journey to find that amazing job. Each episode I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, graduate recruiters and career coaches who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute-ish show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had when I graduated. Hello and thank you for joining me for the 93rd episode of the UK's #1 careers podcast. And boy, do I have a cracker for you today. I'm joined on the show by a company who aren't a household name, but whose products you will definitely have used. They are in the FTSE 100, are growing rapidly, and have some of the most exciting and international graduate schemes on the market today. They are, of course, packaging and recycling giant DS Smith. In this episode, we delve deep into DS Smith and cover what exactly they do as a business and the types of roles they have available across their 3 graduate schemes. We look into the finance scheme in particular and its amazing opportunity to spend 1-year placements working across Europe. We explore what you need to do to apply and the details of each stage of the application process. We cover how you can stand out from the crowd and what you can expect from the virtual assessment centre. No matter if you have already applied or not even heard of DS Smith, this is an episode you won't want to miss, as it is packed full of brilliant advice which will stand you in good stead for any graduate scheme you apply to. As always, a full transcript and all the links from today can be found in the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/dssmith. Before we start, let me tell you about the brilliant course I'm working on, which is cunningly titled How to Get a Graduate Job. This online course is packed chock full of decades of experience into one step-by-step guide of everything you need to do to get a graduate job. There are videos, guides, handouts, cheat sheets, checklists, example CVs, example covering letters, example answers to those annoying 200-word competency questions, help with telephone interviews, video interviews, assessment centres. Look, if you need to know it to get a graduate job, it's in my course. The course is going live in August, but to be the first to hear about it and to get it at a never-to-be-repeated price with special bonuses, head to graduatejobpodcast.com/course and simply leave me your email address. Right, on with the show. A very warm welcome back to the show, Brian Sinclair, Graduate Recruitment Manager at DS Smith. Brian, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me back, James. Great to be on board again.
So, Brian, let's start at the beginning today. Maybe if you tell us a little bit about DS Smith, who are probably one of the biggest companies that listeners might not have heard of.
Yes. Let me tell you about DS Smith. So, DS Smith was founded in the 1940s. It was originally a box making business set up in East London. But obviously since then, things have changed. We've expanded to provide full solutions, including recycling and paper making. We've acquired businesses in North America and Europe. And we've experienced rapid growth. I think the company has grown or doubled in size in the last 5-6 years. And today, our business is made up of 3 core divisions. So that's packaging, paper, and recycling. And obviously, the bigger the company becomes, the more our customers expect of us, and the more we expect of ourselves as well. So we have, as an organization, just this relentless desire to improve, to innovate, to reach new goals. And as you said, people don't know about it, but yes, we are a FTSE 100 company with 2018-2019 revenues of 6.2 billion. We employ about 32,000 people at the moment across 250 sites across 37 countries worldwide. So quite big. And just to give you an example of the types of volumes, we provide more than 1 billion boxes a day. So 1 million boxes a day to a well-known online retailer. But I suppose in terms of our kind of core sustainability, so we offer a broad range of solutions to clients' packaging needs, innovations processes that help them reduce waste, cost, and complexity from their supply chains. By using a kind of proven expertise from design to production, supply chain to recycling, as an organization, we can offer high quality, environmentally friendly, innovative solutions, and of course a great service that looks at the whole of the customer's packaging needs, not just one part. And we actually call that supply chain thinking, and it's a unified approach to removing complexity from and simplifying our customers' supply chains. And just to give you some kind of detail on that, so last year, DS Smith announced a partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which again you might not have heard of, and this we believe will accelerate the company's circular economy drive and sustain innovation across the business, including recycling and carbon efficiency in e-commerce, etc. So just search DS Smith and Ellen MacArthur Foundation to find out more. And then a couple of other quick recent examples of innovations to improve sustainability. You can look up our Box to Box in 14 Days initiative on YouTube, or our coffee cup Dropbox initiative that we had as well, and then how we look to recycle 2.5 billion coffee cups a year. So that's as many coffee cups are used every year in the UK. We have the capacity, if we can get them, to actually recycle all of them. And this is all done at just one of our paper mills and recycling centres in Kendley in Kent, which is one of the largest in Europe. So you can again look all of these up on YouTube. So yeah, I think in terms of sustainability and being environment friendly, we do go kind of way past what your average company tries to achieve. Yeah. Does that give you an idea?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and some big numbers you mentioned there, and the links that you mentioned. So I'll make sure those are linked up in the show notes, which today will be over at graduatejobpodcast.com/DSSmith. But yeah, just go back to some of the earlier stats. So as you mentioned, FTSE 100 company, 32,000 employees across 37 countries. So as a graduate joining the firm, lots of opportunity there to make an impact and make an impact outside of the UK, I guess.
Sure, yeah. So we have, as an organisation, 3 grad programs we run each year: one in packaging, one in finance, and one in recycling. The recycling one is now closed for applications, so maybe for next year have a look. But the other 2, packaging and finance, are still open via our Early Careers website. So yeah, please go there, have a look.
Excellent. And again, links to all of these will be in the show notes. So you did mention offline. Is it the end of May that applicants still have a chance to get their application in? Is that right?
Yes, that's for the packaging and finance programs. They are closing on the 30th of May.
So if we maybe then delve into some of the detail of the 3 different grad schemes. So what do they like then in terms of length, and how long will listeners be on the grad schemes for?
Sure. So both the finance and the packaging programs are 3-year rotational programs. The packaging program is UK based, where you can work on all aspects of a business, from operations, supply chain, logistics, engineering, design, sales, marketing, innovation. So lots of variety, for the candidate to, lots of opportunities to grow and develop. The finance program, on that again, 3 years, but you'll enjoy 3 12-month placements across Europe, each of them giving you a chance to work in a different finance department in various European locations across, our group. This can mean, placement in a head office environment or on one of our production sites. And then lastly, your kind of final placement. Well, we kind of look for that to be defined by your development, your career preferences and business opportunities. For both programs, you'll need at least a 2-1 degree plus the unrestricted right to work in the UK, or for the finance program, unrestricted right to work across Europe. So quite a big reach. For the packaging program, we're especially interested in students who've studied any relevant subjects, so supply chain, logistics, engineering or management, or just have some relevant skills, so skills and experience in maybe sales or marketing experience. Or for the finance program, anything in the finance department itself. For the finance program, though, one of the added extras is you have to be fluent in English and at least one other European language. So yeah, don't apply because you've been learning Spanish and Duolingo during the lockdown. That's not gonna cut it, my friend. So a good solid fluency in at least 2 European languages for the finance program.
Oh, excellent. And just delving into those in a bit more detail. So, I mean, with the finance one, there's not many graduate schemes where you get the opportunity to spend a year in 3 different countries across Europe. So that's a really big plus for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference in the European language, or could it be any European language?
My top tip would be go look at our website, see where we have the most locations, and those languages we want to obviously be more preferable for, because that gives more opportunity to move around. We do find there's a lack of German speaking kind of students in the UK, because it's known to be a hard language to learn. So if you speak German like fluently, not just a little bit, very interested to hear from your application for the finance program. But it's really more about being willing to travel. We find over the years of doing it, certain nationalities are more willing and able to travel and constantly move around than others. So again, just think, is moving home country every year something you're kind of up for? With that, you get lots of exposure and stretch and development. You get a professional qualification as well. So if that's something that sounds of interest to you, great. But if you're a bit of a home board, if you haven't quite cut those apron strings, then the finance program is going to probably push you too far.
And with the packaging program, you talked about going around different types of placements. Do listeners get a choice with which particular placements it might be, or is that just depending on the scheme and what the business needs?
It's a little bit. I think it evolves as you go through the program, because obviously you join, you might have read about it, but getting inside and really get to understand the organization. For the first placement, we'll obviously put you somewhere based on your skills, experience, and yes, business needs. But then as you kind of get to know the organization, we get to know you, we see your skills, strengths, abilities, where you're kind of particularly good at, where you need a little bit of coaching and mentoring and support, guide you through maybe into your second rotation with a little bit kind of a two-way conversation. But we'd like to think when it comes to the third rotation, and indeed where you're going to roll off the program, what kind of your full-time role is going to look like. We want to see some input from you and some sort of direction. We don't want you kind of relying on us for the whole 3 years to tell you where to go and what to do. We want you to kind of be able to proactively network, engage, find out what we do, and then see kind of where you really feel, having had a year, 2 years behind you, where you really think you really want to go in your career at that point. And be open to, surprises to yourself, surprises from the business. You get to know, as you might go, I didn't know you did that, and I'd love to be involved. And we might find out that you're particularly good at something you never knew you were good at either. And hang on, have you ever tried that as a career path? So we'll be flexible, taking on board, what you can do, and as you can be flexible with us in terms of being willing to learn and try new things. So hopefully, we'll guide you initially, then it'll kind of transition gently into you knowing where you want to go by the end of the 3 years, or that's the hope anyways.
I mean, one of the reasons I started my career in a consulting grad scheme was because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, I mean, this would have been a brilliant opportunity to just get that exposure across different parts of the business. So you can try sales, you can try marketing, you can try logistics and supply chain and things, and see where you really feel at home.
Yeah, and bear in mind, it's 3 kind of rotations. So you're not going to touch them all because it's just too big. But we'll try steer a little bit, so you'll kind of try the areas that you can add value in as well, and hopefully learn from. So we're trying to find that balance. I think overall, it's fair to say for both programs, the leadership here in DS Smith are quite vocal about the fact that our grads will be, or should be, our leaders of the future. So particularly in the finance role, they want you to be, their aim is within 10 years to be a financial director, which is a pretty big achievement in such a short space of time. So they're not shy of ambition for themselves and indeed for the graduates in this organisation.
Brilliant. And you can't go wrong where you can see companies where they invest money in the graduates, and also they see them as the future talent, and they're looking to pull them through the business to the positions of responsibility down the line. So it's if you're joining the firm, you know what you can aspire to further down the line. Yeah,
indeed.
So we talked about the packaging and the finance scheme. So even though the recycling scheme isn't open as we record this in May 2020, what does the recycling scheme look like when that opens in, I guess, October, September time?
So people often think recycling is about, getting one product and just converting to something else, and it sounds quite dirty. It's actually quite a technical process. So we look for people with things like, chemical engineers who can come in and look at how can we physically break down the raw material, which is basically the cardboard boxes coming back into it. So we can recycle cardboard. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's something like 20 odd times we can recycle the cardboard. So we can make a fresh, virginal cardboard from paper, and then we can then recycle it up to, I think it's like 25 times. And even then it gets converted into fertilizer. So it's never fully, totally a waste product, if that makes sense. So it's just understanding how do we kind of get the raw material, break it down back into its constituent parts, into actually the paper fiber itself, removing all the dirt on it, any ink that might be on it, any kind of there's a waxy layer on it, like those coffee cups I mentioned, and converting it back into a raw material that can then be kind of thrown back into paper and thrown back into packaging. And it is a massive operation. If you've ever seen online or ever get a chance to visit one of the sites, seeing how we do that and the scale at which we do it, it's insane. But it's equally brilliant to see that, we are such an environmentally friendly, sustainable organization. This whole circular supply chain, our actual product is our raw material, and we fully utilize that. So the recycling is all about how do we do that efficiently and effectively, and any other ways we can kind of reduce the waste or kind of reduce some of our output into another raw material for another industry. So we often produce excess electricity and gas that we can give back to the national supplier. So there's things like that we try to do, and that's we see it as a good business solution. It isn't just a nice fluffy thing to do. We really believe and we can do this and be more efficient. So the recycling is at the heart of how we be as efficient and as sustainable and as environment friendly as possible when continue to kind of grow our business.
Do applicants then specifically need, say, a chemical engineering background or an engineering background, or again, are you agnostic about the type of thing that people study?
We do prefer people who have a relevant degree, a relevant qualification, because they'll understand some of the more technical terms across the business, particularly on the kind of chemical engineering side. A little bit on the packaging, we want the kind of supply chain and logistics and engineering, etc., as I said. But then on the finance side, they're keen that you don't come in molded as a fully trained accountant and everything is black and white and this is the way it's done. We do want, in finance and across the other programs, people to come in with that little bit of innovation and new ideas and fresh thinking. So we really want a variety, but yes, we will prefer candidates with the relevant experience, because we know from experience they'll get up to speed a lot quicker and they'll be comfortable in the industry they've chosen. A complete kind of mindset, complete transfer from, I don't know, an English philosophy degree into working on a production site. You'll have to make it clear to us why you want to get in on that route. Otherwise, we'll really challenge you on that in the selection process as to why do you want to work here, what's the interest and what can you bring to the role. So be prepared to join those dots for us if you are applying without the relevant qualification.
Brilliant. And one final question on the different schemes before we move on to the application process itself. Sure. Listeners always make sure or ask me to ask this question. What's the starting salary, or what can people expect to start on?
£27,500 as a starting salary, plus allowances and the usual kind of perks and benefits of working for a large organisation. And then it does grow from there year on year.
Excellent. So not too shabby at all then.
Nope.
So we've whet listeners' appetite for applying. So let's delve into the application process itself then. So Brian, do you want to take us through what the application process looks like?
Okay, so for me, I think I would say there's 6 key stages in the process. The first is actually, I would say, research the company. So obviously, not strictly a stage in a selection process, but I think it's good advice to check out any company before you apply. Decide if you even want to apply. So look at things. Does the company offer what you're looking for in a career? Is the company's values aligned to what's important to you? Is the sort of program that's being offered what you think you'd actually like? And of course, just check you meet the entry criteria, as mentioned earlier. That don't kind of try to fudge it. You need to have those actual, like not beginner Spanish. You'll need the strong language skills or the 2-1 degree for the programs. Well, for the finance, when you need the language skills particularly. Then, secondly, having done your research, you're now clear. So for DS Smith is for you. Then for us, you apply online. You just submit your CV, and if you're not sure, again, just search for DS Smith for early careers to find our website to find out more and apply there. When you've applied, we review your CV, and if you have what we're looking for, as outlined earlier, we'll invite you to complete some online assessments. Pretty straightforward, verbal, numerical, and logical reasoning. Shouldn't be too onerous for most graduates, to be fair. Past those are kind of meet our benchmark, and then the fourth stage is being invited to a short competency interview, which is probably going to be with me. And yes, I'll be nice, honest. I'll be fair. And then if you pass the competency interview, really the final stage of our selection process will be a virtual assessment centre, which will be held online in June. And candidates who get that far will get all the details of how it's going to work and what's involved, etc., and anything they need to do to prepare. The sixth stage, and again, may not be seen as part of a typical selection process, but for us, the final stage is passing and getting an offer to start on with our programs. And we consider this, a stage in our process. As we know, signing up is not the same as turning up. Yep. So we will continue to help and, after you're offered, going to help you prepare for that transition to the world of work. So providing things like insights to the DS Smith, yep. A buddy for informal chats and advice, some stuff to read beforehand, just to accelerate your induction. So lots of things to ensure you arrive feeling prepared and ready. So, you wouldn't turn up at the start of a, 10K race or a 26-mile marathon without having done some training. So in the same way, we don't expect you to turn up on your first day of work not knowing what to expect. So very much that kind of offer stage is our sixth stage. So does that make sense? Does that help?
No, that's brilliant. So maybe then if we just delve into each of those in turn. So you mentioned in terms of apart from the research stages, submitting a CV. So that's, from a listener's point of view, it's good. It's a lot less work than having to fill in 10, 200-word competency type online questions. In terms of your specific preference on a CV, you'll have been seeing hundreds of people applying so far, thousands of people applying this year. What's letting people down with their CVs at the moment?
Two key things will always, well, three. Let me put it as three. Three key things will always let you down. First one is just keep it short. I don't want to have to go through 4 or 5. I've seen a 23-page CV this year so far.
Seriously, 23 pages?
23 pages of CV, and it was like I was trying to read a book of some sort. And I don't need that level of detail. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to read that level of detail. I don't need paragraphs on every tiny little thing you've done. I want it nice and simple, the degree, any work experience. There's some key hobbies and pastimes. Just I want a sense of, who you are, but very importantly, I want to make sure I can screen it quickly and then see you meet the criteria. So the second thing is don't hide details. So be honest on the application form. Otherwise, I'm just going to call you and ask you, or if the CV is kind of not great anyways, this could be the deciding factor. Please put on your degree classification. So whether you got a 2-1 or a 2-2 or a first, just make that a little bit clear. Obviously, if it's a first, sell yourself, mention it. Say, yes, I got a first. Don't hide it away. I've seen a lot of students try to say, I went to this university and this university is ranked, or this business school is ranked, this high in the world, and that's great, but that's not you. That's the university you went to. Yeah. How did you do in that degree, that dissertation? What was your end result? And if you're still studying, what are you predicted? I know something like 90% of students in the UK market will predict the 2 or first. I kind of get that, but I still want to see in the CV what are your grades. Otherwise, I might get a little bit suspicious that you're trying to blag it a little bit. You maybe have a 2-2, or you're not on track. Just be honest in the CV and don't hide information. And then the third thing, it's a classic mistakes in the CV, typos, just that kind of simple things. If you just read your CV properly, I'm dyslexic. I know I spell things wrong all the time. So I have learned over the years that I need to print stuff off, and actually the best way to proofread is to print and read it line for line, possibly with a pen underlining things. So don't just slap it together and send it off. I've literally seen candidates apply and they forgot to add their degree details on it, or they've spelled their name wrong, or worse, the phone number or email is incorrect, and I just can't contact them even if I wanted to progress the application. So just that little final check on errors, get a friend to proofread or a parent or somebody. So get the length kind of right, not too much, 1 or 2 pages is absolutely fine to give me the intro. Don't hide the details. I'm looking for it. It is on the requirements. And don't, just try avoid mistakes in the CV, typos or just errors or formatting errors. Keep it nice and neat. Yep. Does that help?
No, that's very helpful. And at one end of the spectrum, you've got the 23-page CV, which I still can't really get my head around. But are you more of one page sort of, just keep it nice and short and sharp and a good 1-page CV, or do you prefer a 2-page, or does it, is it?
I prefer 2-page, and the only reason I prefer a 2-page is because when students try to cram everything onto a 1-page document, they tend to just use really, really small font and very, very narrow line pacing and really stretch the margins to the limit. And it feels like, you could have really kind of even went a page and a half. Just trying to cram it onto 1 page. It's common of the business schools, MBA type CVs, and you don't need to. Don't. It's kind of counterproductive that I can't see it as easily as possible. So nice of a 2 pages, not too wordy, just key points, keep the format simple and readable, and that'll increase your chances. Yeah, I will read the CVs. I'm not horrible. But try not to kind of cram everything onto just 1 page. Try to just, if you have to spread it over a page and have 2 pages, that's absolutely fine.
That's good advice. I mean, listeners, if you find yourself getting down to font 6 to squeeze something onto your CV, then you probably, you're doing something wrong. So make sure there's no point sending it in if people can't read it. So that is good advice. And Brian, what percentage of people do you think fail at this initial stage?
I think we're not unusual in the selection process. Just a basic CV screen, we'd probably only progress maximum 30% of the candidates through. Oh. And that's really because, students apply, it's particularly for the finance program. There's a large number of students who have applied who just don't have a second language. They've tried to blag that they're studying Spanish, or they did the GCSE in German. And I'm like, now if I'm going to send you, maybe in your first placement or second placement to Germany, and you've got to live and work there and sort out accommodation, pay bills, a little bit of hello and can I buy a train ticket is not going to cut the mustard. You're going to have some solid language. So unfortunately, a lot of candidates have applied and just haven't got our basic criteria for the role. So yeah, it sounds quite harsh, but I know in a lot of companies, the screening process, the screening is quite hard. But I think I'd rather say no at that point than put you through, and then you get to the assessment center and one of our stakeholders who speaks German or Spanish tries to chat to you, and just becomes embarrassing. So yeah, I'd like to check up front. And a few candidates haven't been clear, and I've called them and had a chat and checked their language skills, just because for you to live and work, you need the skills. We're not just being overly pedantic and fussy. It is a requirement of being successful in the role.
Yep, no, completely agree. So moving on to the next stage then, which is the online testing phase. And I know from some of the clients I coach, some people tend to underestimate this stage and just assume the GCSE maths or whatever will just take them through it. And I do find this is something you do need to put the practice into just to make sure that you're on top of your game for this stage.
Yeah, I think for me, the psychometric test is really take the fear out of it, and you can only do that by practicing. So, top level advice with any online assessments is it just requires a high level of concentration for a short space of time. So when you're doing them, make sure you're in a place where you can focus, You've got good internet connection, no one's going to disturb you. And then a pro tip would be, if you think about your natural daily circadian rhythm, so when are you most, at your creative, when are you most tired, when do you kind of need various what kind of where you perform best in different avenues in your daily life. So I know, for example, in the morning time, I'm quite good at just knocking through very high level admin, very low level, high volume admin tasks. I know I can kind of flag a little bit around lunchtime, so I think I'll work on something that is quite easy to do, but takes a little bit of kind of time. And then I know in the afternoon is where I'm at my most creative, and that's when I'll start picking up any kind of projects that I need to do, more of. I often get a spike in the evening, so I'm often I might read or work on some other stuff in the evening, some personal stuff. So I know where my kind of key peaks and troughs are. So for that, I know the kind of high volume, low, quite quick transaction stuff is in the morning time. So that's when I would do the online assessments. And that's where I feel I probably perform the best. I wouldn't do it just before lunch and I'm tired and hungry and just trying to squeeze it in. And equally, you don't need to do them all in one go. You can do one test, do one later that day or one in the next day. It's fine. We give you 10 days to do 3 tests. The test can take up to, I think it's 18 minutes maximum per test. So it's easily doable over a coffee break. So don't push yourself too far, but do them when you think you're performing your best. And as I said, think of it as a high level of concentration for a short space of time, and obviously practice. Yeah, you're right, James. Don't go straight in and do one with a kind of highly overly confident attitude. Try do it in a sensible way. We will make a decision on this, and if you don't meet the benchmark, then you will be rejected. So give it your best shot.
Yep, no, that's great advice there. And the next stage you mentioned was a competency interview. Would this be a video one, or is it just a phone interview?
We offer both. We ask candidates. It is a live one, so we can do a Skype. You can join on video if you want to. Do a phone call. Funnily enough, most candidates have opted just for a straightforward phone call. That is the default preference, and I'm fine with that. I want to make sure you're comfortable and operating in the most comfortable way. I know a lot of students, because of the lockdown, have gone home and no longer in a single apartment where no one disturbs them. They've got family, they've got things going on, or they've got low internet connection. So I've had a couple of instances where people have had to borrow a friend's mobile phone for me to call them to do the interview. So I offer you can do any of the 3. But most so far, if not all, actually, have gone for telephone interviews.
Okay. And any advice at this stage then for the competency questions?
Prepare in advance. So think about the examples you can bring. Research the company. It's very basic. You're going to apply for an organization, and we are going to ask you why. Why do you want to work here? So if you fluff that question, you're going to kick yourself, and that's going to put you on the back foot for the rest of the interview. So really be prepared for the interview where they are able to clearly articulate why you want to join the organization. I normally kind of advise students to break it down to 3 things. So know your facts and figures and big numbers of an organization, like I said earlier on, but the FTSE 100, 32,000 people, 250 countries, 200 sites, and 250 locations across 37 countries. So stuff like that. Who are key people? So know your facts. Then know what's new. So news. So look up our social media, look up our website, find out more about what we're currently doing and things that we're kind of up to at the moment, any recent innovations or developments. And then the third one is put that together, having done all your research. What is it that really made you think, yes, I actually want to work there? Make it personal, make that connection, show the interviewer you resonate in some way with our values, reach an initiative, idea, anything we've done that you just made you cross that line from interested in an organization to actually want to be an employee of the organization. We want to hear that. And it's really good for an interview when a candidate tells us something we missed. I didn't know we did that. I didn't know we were doing that. That shows real prep, real insight, and shows that passion and interest in the organization, but you've quantified it. You've not just quoted facts, and you've actually said, this is why I really want to join your organization. And that really gets people across the line.
No, brilliant. No, that's quality advice, and definitely. And I find again with some of the people who I've been coaching is they try and apply to too many companies. And if you're trying to apply to too many companies, then you're just not able to go into that level of detail that you need to impress, to go into that level of research, because you just haven't got the time to do the research. And yeah, you just come up short when you do get asked these obvious questions of, why do you want to work here? And, what's different about us compared to our competitors?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I've said I've outlined on our website all our all the stages of the process. But overall, I think what I'd like to get across to your listeners is that what they can expect from our selection process is honesty and help. So we'll guide you through the process as much as we can. So there's no surprises. There's stuff on our website. We'll tell you what's involved in the next step we invite you. However, in return, we expect you to come prepared to succeed. So we'll encourage you to practice the online test, as I said. We'll outline the things we're looking for. We've already done that on our website, what we look for in an ideal candidate. So, guess what? What are we going to ask you to demonstrate during the selection process? It's those things exactly. So in essence, we want you to really shine through the selection process. And obviously, if you do, we'll offer you the role. So we're trying to help you help yourself, if that makes sense. And then, as I said, about being prepared, for me, skills eat nerves for breakfast. So be confident in yourself, because if you can't convince yourself you can do the job, you won't be able to convince the interviewer. Just slightly temper that by this, adding that you should be the right sort of confident. So that is confident enough to ask the question, but not so confident to think you know the answer. So we want candidates who can bring fresh ideas, new ideas, help us innovate, continue to be successful, help grow the company, even more. But if you think you can come in and disrupt everything and tell us what we're doing wrong and act and behave like we hired you as a CEO, then you won't get past the selection process. So be prepared, be confident, but not overly confident.
Excellent. And the final stage then is the virtual assessment centre. Yes. Listeners will be well versed with what an assessment centre might hold, but I think a virtual one is probably something that's going to be a lot more common going forward. So Brian, can you maybe just run us through how a virtual assessment centre will work?
So basically, you log on from the comfort of your own home to pre-prepared in the destination. We'll give you a link, and you'll probably log in and some passwords, so we kind of know it's you, and you feel secure that you're in the right place. The assessment centre is a variety of exercises. So we'll have a group exercise, we'll have an analytical exercise, just to test your kind of ability to analyse information and data and kind of provide a kind of response to it. Have an interview with senior stakeholders. We'll ask you to prepare a presentation. So you can get your kind of key skills across, giving you that opportunity. And then that basically a group exercise, interview, analytical exercise, and then the presentation. And then we'll be done, hopefully, by about 2:00 in the afternoon. You can log off and go have lunch. During the course of the day, we'll have chat rooms available so you can talk to us if there's any kind of technical issues or last minute queries. We're trying to get our graduates to join as well, so they can be on hand for that kind of hints and tips and questions you can ask in between the exercises, or just chatting about what it's like to really be a grad in there. So yeah, it's basically a lift and shift of our standard assessment centre exercises, but converted so it's all managed online. Yes, from the comfort of your own home.
Any advice that you'd give to listeners for the virtual group exercise?
Virtual group exercise is going to be one to think about, because you're no longer in the same room. So how do you prevent from talking over each other? Especially if there's like a little lag in your video connection, stuff like that. So try to be visual, and more visual than normal. So you might want to kind of wave on the screen, raise your hand, give it a second for everyone to notice, and then it's just typical group exercise. Yeah, you might want to say something, and if there's other people kind of constantly talking over you, you need to learn to manage that somehow, and that's a whole different conversation. But try to make sure you are, like any kind of video or online meeting, that you can be heard, you can be seen, not in too dark a background, stuff like that. But the video, the group exercise, the hardest part is, getting in and engaging in the conversation. We'll have a chat window as well open, so you can put a few comments in there saying, can I just add a point in a second when you're ready, and just use it that way. So just think a little bit more how you use the tools available as opposed to just kind of jumping in and what you'd normally do in a group exercise in person, where you might move your hand and wave a little bit, or to tap the table or something. Just think about you have to do it virtually now. So we're probably going to give a few tips in advance of the assessment centre on the things to think about and how to rethink things like this in a virtual environment. And we'll do that as part of the invite.
Well, that's going to be interesting. As I said, they're going to be. I think companies are going to be using them a lot more going forward. So it's skills that listeners are going to have to getting on top of. So I'll have to keep an eye out for those hints and tips as you create them, Brian. So before we move on to our weekly staple questions, do you have any final hints and advice for people how they can stand out from the crowd throughout the whole application process?
I already mentioned about kind of that confidence and by being prepared. I think one thing I think you mentioned before, your listeners are pretty interested in is a video interview. So at the assessment centre, we're going to have video interviews as part of live interviews. So just in terms of kind of preparing for that and feeling more prepared and less nervous and building that confidence, if you are doing a video interview, I would advise kind of 3 core things around preparation, technology, and location. So the first one I'd say is prepare like you would for any interview. So research the company, remind yourself of your key skills, get dressed as if you were going to go into the company's office, and just do the usual preparation for any other type of interview. So just don't forget the preparation. Secondly, I'd say check your technology. So I'm sure many of us have gotten much more familiar with various online meeting technology, Zoom, Skype, MS Teams, House Party, there's others out there. But don't let that familiarity fail you. Check it all again before the interview. If the employer offers you a trial run, take the opportunity, let them connect and make sure it all works. Does your video connect? Is the camera positioned correctly? Does your microphone work? Can they hear you? Do you need to use headphones? Is the volume okay? Can you hear them? And be ready to share your screen if you have to present. So practice all this tactile or remotely, so that will help you remove any worries in the day. Well, any tech worries at least. And then finally, check your location. So apart from signal strength and that you can be seen and heard, make sure you avoid background noise or distractions and make sure that you won't be interrupted. So tell the people in the house or where you're living with that you're doing an interview, and they'll have to wait until it's over before coming in to where you are. Recently attended a webinar where a woman presented from inside her wardrobe. Well, it was a walk-in wardrobe with good lighting. But the point is, she knew in there she wouldn't be interrupted and there'd be good sound, etc. So that just people are being creative at the moment, and people are accepting that. So people are more accepting of interruptions, because they're having them too. But you still don't want that to happen during your interview. So tell your mother not to bring in that fresh pile of ironing. Tell your boyfriend not to call out for you to come back to bed in the middle of the interview, and don't have pizza delivered during the middle of the interview. You'd be surprised what I've seen over the years. So yes, prepare overall. I'd say prepare as if it was a face-to-face interview. Check your tech, and then check your and prep your location too, if that makes sense. And don't be tempted to do those fancy backgrounds. They'll just distract the interviewer because they know it's fake when you move around, and they'll just get curious. So what's really behind that fake background? So just show your kitchen wall or your cupboard. It's fine. We're not recording them, so we're pretty flat. And then the interviewers themselves will be dialing in from their house as well. So it's actually an opportunity to build up a little bit of rapport. Don't hide away from it.
That's very useful advice. So listeners, definitely take on board all of the top tips there from Brian. So Brian, thank you so much for that. Let's move on then to our weekly staple questions. I'm interested for your responses here. So question number 1, what book would you recommend to listeners?
I would recommend Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. It's an embarrassing book to read on the train, but it's also a very useful book to help you understand the type of person you're dealing with and how to best interact with them. So it's all based on insights and people being personality types based on, categorized by color. So you might be a red or a yellow or a green or a blue, and the book defines all that, helps you identify the different types of personality, and then helps you obviously identify yours as well, and then how you can adjust your communications and your behavior and your kind of approach to get to a much more effective relationship with these different types of people. So very well written, very funny, very insightful, a highly recommended book. So Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson.
Brilliant. I could do with reading that, and be one that will help you through the application process, and then also one that will help you when you settle down to start work as well. And again, check out the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/DSSmith, where there'll be links to everything we discussed, a full transcript, and also the book recommendation there. If you click and buy it online, you never know, you might be getting it delivered in DS Smith packaging as well. So next question, what one website or internet resource would you point listeners to?
So again, maybe cheesy and sound like a bit of a cop-out, but I'm actually going to recommend you just visit your university careers website. I work a lot with universities, and I know they put a lot of effort into providing, a lot of helpful resources for students out there who are job hunting at the moment, not just articles or who to connect, but obviously details of upcoming events, including online webinars with employers and other experts. So I think go there, have a look. It's all there to help you get your dream job. So I definitely recommend your university careers website.
Yeah, that's cracking advice, and I think one that's often overlooked by listeners. I mean, I know they've come on leaps and bounds from when I was at university, and from looking at some of them recently, they do have some really cracking content on there. So definitely worth checking out, and take advantage of any mock interviews or mock assessment centres that they might be running. And
yes,
make sure you're on the mailing list so you can find out when companies like DS Smith are rolling into your university as well. So definitely top tip there.
Cool.
And final question then, Brian, what one tip would you give listeners that they can implement today to help them on their job search?
One more tip. What I'll say is just bear in mind, deception and exception don't go well together. So deception and exception don't go well together. I know they rhyme and sound similar, but the message is don't lie on your CV in the hope that when an employer does get to know you, they'll forgive you a little mistake and make an exception and still hire you. Employers won't. No one will hire a candidate who's been deliberately deceptive. So don't say you've got a 2 in degree when actually you got a 2.2. Don't get a friend to do an online assessment for you. We will find out. We want to see your degree certificate as part of the offer, and we will rescind if it's not what we looked for. And with the online assessments, we'll validate that score, either assessing you in other ways at the assessment centre or through the rest of the process. So we'll know, basically. So don't try it. We won't forgive it. I know, we're all more than the sum of our parts, and when those parts are assessed separately, they don't often meet, a singular benchmark, and it can be frustrating. It's a bit like life asking you to roll a 7 with 1 dice. But this doesn't mean you're a bad or a poor candidate. It just means you're not right for the role, and you'll probably enjoy success in a different role in a different company. So don't try to deceive your way into a role that isn't right for you anyway. Be honest with yourself and in your application. And if there's one thing I've learned from my 14 plus years of recruitment, is that the right role, that if a role is right for you, you'll get it. So just trust me on that. There is a role out for you, and if it's the right role for you, you will get it. Does that help? That's
amazing. Brian, thank you so much for your time today. What's the best way that the listeners can get in touch with DS Smith?
Just go to the search for DS Smith early careers, and you'll find our website for all the information. And then you have a look around our website. It's dssmith.com. Find out more about the Ellen MacArthur or circular supply chain, all the different programs. And found that business, the packaging, the recycling, and the paper business. Have a look. When I found out about it, I was fascinated, and I'm really happy I'm working here now.
Brilliant. And listeners, don't forget, applications for the packaging and finance scheme are still open up to the end of May 2020. So you will have about 3 weeks to get the applications in from when this goes live. Brian, thank you so much for appearing on the Graduate Podcast.
You're welcome.
There you go. Many thanks to Brian for his time. Doesn't that sound like a couple of cracking schemes? The finance scheme in particular, with the placements across Europe, is an amazing opportunity. The emphasis DS Smith puts on developing graduates and seeing them as future leaders of the business means that you'll do well whichever scheme you apply to. And speaking of applications, don't forget they are still open for another 3 weeks as this episode goes live, and you can get your applications in until the end of May 2020. If you do need some help with your application to DS Smith or any other application and want to make sure you are ready for the initial application, interviews and assessment centres, check out graduatejobpodcast.com/course to find details of my soon-to-be released online course, which will tell you everything you need to know to get a graduate job. That is everything from today. Join me next week when we tackle the subject of getting rejected from a graduate job. Not a happy topic, but one you need to be ready for. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, but more importantly, hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.